Coming up next on Tech News Today, a simple phishing email was enough to set off a political chain reaction. Also, Oculus is restructured as the CEO moves to a different role in the company. Apple's AirPods are on sale, but you still won't get them by Christmas. Google is moving its autonomous car division to the big leagues. And Tinder for your Apple TV. Couch potatoes deserve romance too, you know. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1660, recorded Tuesday, December 13th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Grasshopper. Stay connected and run your business from your mobile phone with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, visit trygrasshopper.com/twit.
And by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage process into the 21st century with a fast, easy, and completely online process. Check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is a show where we talk about everything you need to know about technology that happened. Everything that happened today. Everything you need to know. Anything else we don't talk about, you do not need to know.
Yeah, we just throw that to the side.
And I like to call us the milk and honey of tech news.
Every day. And I still don't understand what's better. What's better, milk or honey?
Milk and honey together.
Oh.
We're better together.
I don't know if I've ever had milk and honey together.
What?
Well, I mean, just as like a drink.
Yeah, or in your cereal.
Potentially. It sounds like something I'll check out later.
All right, ready to get to the tech news?
Let's do it.
Okay. The New York Times says that Russian hackers gained access to the emails of DNC campaign chairman John Podesta as a result of a typo. The Times says Podesta was suspicious of a phishing scam he received, but one aide responded to the message to his suspicions, saying, quote, "This is a legitimate email. John needs to change his password immediately." Now, in many interviews afterwards, the aide said he meant to write, "This is an illegitimate email." Podesta clicked on the link in the phishing email, and the rest is history, even up to and possibly including influencing this year's election. Politics aside, the phishing attack might not have changed the outcome of the election, but it surely influenced it, which means that Russia and others have a powerful cyber weapon in their hands.
Oof. Yes. Okay, so simple phishing attack, which I'm sure we've all received an email like this in one way or another, right? Like it took us a while to program ourselves to understand that when you get an email that looks official, it looks like it was sent from Google, everything looks right. Like up until a certain point, there were misspellings, there were spelling errors, things just didn't look quite right. Now, apparently, and obviously, I'm surprised it took this long to get there, it's very easy to make a convincing email that looks right. So you don't click that link, even if you're absolutely certain it's from the place. You don't click the link. You go to the site, you make the change there, and that's. I mean, I'm sure many people have fallen for this. It's no surprise that it was this easy.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are lots of security lapses that are talked about in this Times article. Definitely a great read. This one, I think, was the most picked up by other news outlets because it's so common. Like that kind of, oh, you said legitimate when you meant to say illegitimate.
Yeah. I don't know if I buy that personally.
You don't?
Well, I mean, I get that things like that happen. I also feel like maybe that's a really convenient way to spin it after the fact. The truth is we'll never actually know whether that was truly a spelling error or not. But if it wasn't, this is a great way to make yourself not look as bad and to shuffle the blame onto somebody else. No matter how you slice it, though, I mean, the ripple effect is pretty severe here. Obviously, the whole topic is insanely politicized at this point, so it's kind of hard to talk about it without letting kind of personal politics come into it. And I'm going to avoid that. But what I worry about is that, and we talked about this leading up to the election, is that hacking as results to election, I mean, this is the new world order that we're talking about. It's obviously an effective strategy, and it did not take very much to pull this off, according to the New York Times piece. This was not sophisticated hacking. This was just purely a phishing email that worked and lasted. And the repercussions of that access lasted for months and months and months. And that's something anybody can do. That's a really scary kind of scenario going forward.
Absolutely.
Oculus announced structural changes, further defining its PC VR and mobile VR divisions, Oculus CEO Brendan Iribe is stepping down to lead the new PC group, while head of software John Thomason will lead the new mobile division. Both are going to actually be working alongside Mike Schroepfers, he's the CTO of Facebook, to ultimately select a new CEO for the company. Really seems like a lot of what this is about. Brendan was talking about in a statement that he released on this topic about committing himself to things that he really enjoys, keeping close to product development, being close to the product itself, and maybe stepping a bit further away from the boring business stuff.
Yeah, so they're bifurcating, right? Splitting in two, and there's no CEO. That leaves an empty spot at the top. So do you want to take the spot?
I mean, I've used Oculus Rift a total of probably like a half an hour in my entire life. I think I deserve to be CEO of Oculus. I mean, I wouldn't turn it down. And I think Oculus touches the bee's knees too. So there you go.
Right. That's all you need, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of screwed up the launch, right? There weren't enough to go around. They didn't know the demand they were going to get. The Vive came out before. They didn't have the controllers when they came out, which was part of what made them fantastic. So you can see why this is sort of a demotion for Iribe.
Well, yeah, and it's hard to tell whether this was him, like partially his decision, like I really just want to get close to product, or whether it is in fact some sort of a demotion. I mean, Iribe created the company with Palmer Luckey 4 years ago, so he was there from the very beginning. I mean, I think there probably could be some truth to the fact that when you start something, you're starting it based around this like creative vision that you have, this thing that you're super passionate about. And then when it blows up and a company like Facebook comes along and buys it and everything, and because you were a creator, you get swept into this, into formalizing your role around the business stuff because they think you are closest to the vision of the company. I mean, maybe that's not the most enjoyable thing in the world. I would guess that I would probably want to be closer to the product than I would have to deal with all the business stuff. So maybe it's not a demotion. Maybe it's kind of mutually beneficial. Maybe.
And apparently they're still keeping Palmer Luckey locked up in a room somewhere so he doesn't offend any more people, politics aside.
Have not heard from Palmer Luckey, but apparently we will hear something soon. He's been radio silent for a while. Oculus is saying that they're going to announce a new role for Palmer sometime soon. Yeah, I mean, Facebook has, of course, bought a lot of companies. They bought Instagram, they bought WhatsApp, and they usually keep the people at the top. They're not the kind of people that, toss them out. Hasn't been a Steve Jobs situation for any of the founders, but this might be their first company that they've bought that they're rearranging at the top. Right. So that was your chance, Jason. Okay, I'll get in there. I'll fill out my application.
Okay.
Where do I go to find an application?
I think it's at monster.com. I don't know.
Okay.
At last, Apple's AirPods are finally on sale for $159. You still won't get them for Christmas because they're already back ordered for at least 4 weeks. An official press release says they'll arrive in stores next week, so you could wait in line for them. We talked about this. It was delayed. It was one of those situations where everybody hated them and thought they were ugly, and then everyone got mad that they couldn't get them. Right. And I said last week when we talked about this that my grandmother used to say, when she went to a restaurant, she was like, "Oh, the food is so bad and the portions are so small." I was schooled on Twitter that my grandmother stole that from Groucho Marx. So just so you know.
All right. So that's a thing.
Yeah, that's a thing.
But totally applicable.
So everybody who hated the AirPods, including Groucho Marx, now is mad they can't get them. But now you can.
Kind of. I mean, you're going to have to wait until January. If your idea was to get these as a Christmas gift, you're not going to get them in time unless you got in super duper early, like right when they went on sale, because some of those sales were actually scheduled to deliver beforehand, and now they're just delayed into eternity, basically. Apple also posted on its Beats X headphones page, which are another pair of headphones that they originally slated to release fall 2016, that's going to be coming in February. So if you were thinking about checking those out before the AirPods, which many thought they were going to be able to do, now you're going to have to wait until after. You probably end up getting the AirPods anyways. These use the same Apple W1 chip as the AirPods, so in many ways they're similar, except for that unsightly wire that connects the earbuds to the other stuff. And who would want a wire in their ears?
So gauche.
Who would want a wire in their ears? Yeah.
So I don't know what to say about these. I mean, I have a dozen pairs of Bluetooth headphones. I don't think that those would stay in my ears, the AirPods. But there's the Jabra Elite Sport. I don't know if you've seen those. Those are $250, and they're totally waterproof. So
Ooh.
you can, I don't know, fall in the toilet
Can you
with
do
your
voice?
head and not wreck them.
Can you do voice actions with or voice prompt stuff with them?
I don't know.
'Cause you can do those with AirPods, right?
Yeah, you
They
can
have
do
this
Siri and
kind of
stuff.
the Siri.
Yeah.
Siri stuff.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Those are for swimming. They're not for falling in the toilet.
Oh.
Through your head.
It's a pretty big toilet that you're falling into if that's why you got those. Google is formalizing its efforts with the Internet of Things by rebranding its seemingly stalled Brillo IoT platform as Android Things. It's Android everything right now, and this is the next step, Android Things. Developers can get going with the SDK preview along with supported developer kits that include the Raspberry Pi 3, the Intel Edison, and in the NXP Pico. They also have a few others that you can check the site for. Weave, which is Google's IoT platform, is expected to release in a later developer preview. Weave is more along the lines of like Google's HomeKit, if there was like a direct correlation. But I mean, Brillo was this IoT platform that I think Google announced a couple of years ago, and then you literally heard almost nothing about. But we really haven't seen Google as a company really make very many consumer-facing moves in the world of IoT until literally the last couple of months with Google Home and a few other efforts. So I suppose it makes sense for them to rebrand, but man, Google just loves rebranding their stuff.
But I mean, admittedly, Android Things is a much better name than Brillo.
Yes, it's at least a little bit more descriptive.
Yeah, Brillo is something that has your dirty dishwasher washing liquid all over it. You don't want to name something like that.
I don't know why that was ever a good idea, to be honest, now that you mention it.
So the thing is, it's updates directly from Google, which is their way of saying it's going to be more secure. You're going to get security updates faster. You're going to get the fixes faster, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's more private.
I don't know. I don't know about the private aspect. That's probably up to the people who, up to the manufacturers who are creating the devices within which this will be built into to ensure privacy. But the security, I mean, that's a really important issue, right? We've seen it with the Mirai botnet. There's the ability of all of these little IoT devices to rise up at the request of somebody and focus their efforts on attacking something. At least here, you're getting updates direct from Google, and hopefully there's little to no delay in that regard. If they're coming from Google the way they are with other things like Android Wear as a platform, then your hope is that that's fast enough to get ahead of threats like Mirai, if and when they arise.
Right. And so, with Apple's HomeKit, you really have to use an iPhone to use Apple's HomeKit. But from what I understand with Android Things, it's not like, you have to be running an Android phone. That's sort of separate. It's Android built into the devices.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that you have to be running an Android phone and have a Google Home and be in that ecosystem. This is something separate. You could definitely have an iPhone and control all your Android things with your iPhone. Yeah,
I mean, it's just another IoT platform on which for things to talk to. As long as they know how to speak that language, then there should be no resistance there. And Google, I mean, in many ways has proven that it's, when it creates certain things, it's not just limited to Android all the time. There are apps and services that reach into iOS and other platforms to make these things a little bit more useful than just to the insane amount of Android people, Android owners there are. But I'm excited about this. New partners for Weave are in the pipeline, including Belkin, Waymo, LifeX, Honeywell, which I have Honeywell at home, Wink, TP-Link, and First Alert. So more kind of device support kind of on the horizon.
So I looked at a lot of the comment section for a lot of these articles, and a lot of developers or people claiming to be developers in the comment section are really suspicious of this sticking around. Like they just, there was a lot of comments of people saying this is just what Google does and it won't be around, and why should we invest our time and energy and learning about this platform when they're just going to replace it with something else?
Yeah, I mean, that's a growing kind of frustration that people have with Google. Google has proven time and time again that nothing is sacred, you know what I mean? And it really kind of came to a header with, was it Google killing off the feed reader? Why am I suddenly blanking?
Google Reader? Google
Reader, there we go. Where there were so many users of Google Reader, but for some reason Google decided it just didn't fit. And, if something that used is expendable, then, it kind of lowers people's confidence that things like this might ever kind of proliferate for 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line and continue to get that sort of support. It's kind of like a dark cloud that follows Google right now with all of their product releases. You always hear that. People just kind of have it in their brain that it's something new from Google. Yeah, that's really cool. How long is it going to be here? Because it's going to go away someday. We just know that.
So perhaps you'd be more interested in the Microsoft Internet of Things. Mary Jo Foley says Microsoft is bringing Cortana to all the devices in your home with a 2017 Creators Update. You can talk to your smart fridge, your internet-connected lights, your wired toothbrush. Basically, you'll be yelling commands at everything in your house. Now, this was announced at WinHack, a WinHack event in Shenzhen last week. And I want to thank Jesse Goraya, who is one of our viewers, who pointed out that we missed all of the WinHack announcements last week. They just went by us with us ignoring them. So, Jesse, now we're going to talk about them. So, yeah, Cortana is going to even be able to work when it's on standby or when the devices are on standby. So it's great.
I mean, it sounds like, and probably is more or less Microsoft's approach for the Amazon/Google Home thing, and this is Microsoft's version of that. Tying right into that was an announcement today that Cortana Devices Software Dev Kit, which is embedding Cortana into these devices. There's a new Harmon Kardon Cortana, that's really hard to say, enabled voice-enabled speaker that's going to be releasing in February 2017. It has a really nice Deadmau5 soundtrack in the video. Awesome. Anyways, which I mean is exactly that. It's totally a voice-activated speaker, similar to what we've seen from competitors, and now Microsoft has its own in the pipeline.
Yeah, Microsoft has been trying to create the Microsoft Home for at least a decade. Like I remember going to CES in 2000. So that was more than a decade and a half ago now. They, with the TV, that was going to be like, Microsoft was going to be your home. And, Bill Gates has his home all totally controlled. And
yeah.
So hopefully, I mean, it would be interesting if like the tiny Amazon Echo speaker that came out of nowhere was the door that opened to everyone saying, yes, I would love to talk to all of my devices in my house.
At this point, it kind of seems like that's totally true.
Yeah.
It seems like that is. I guess the question is, what is the longevity of it? Is this a category that 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the line has expanded and grown to a point to where like we can't imagine not having it? It still feels like it's outside of those lines. But I know for myself, the more I connect my home, and coupled with the more that it actually works when I want to do things, like that's really important. The more that happens, the more I'm like, okay, yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah, except for the more that I yell at my Amazon Echo and it doesn't understand me, like the more frustrated I get.
That's the other side of it.
And it's so that is the other side of
Yeah.
it. So it has to get better quickly.
Yep.
After the break, Google gets Waymo serious about self-driving cars.
That was good. That was good.
But first, let's take a minute to thank Grasshopper, the sponsor of this episode. Grasshopper is a virtual phone system designed for entrepreneurs. Now, if you have your own business or you're planning on starting your own business or you know someone that has her own business, you're going to want to know about Grasshopper. Grasshopper works just like a traditional phone system, but you don't need any hardware. You don't have to purchase any hardware, and you don't have to install any software. They have an iOS and an Android app, and then callers can reach you wherever you are on your mobile phone. Grasshopper allows you to keep your existing number so you can maintain your brand. And when you make a call, your client will see your Grasshopper caller ID instead of your personal phone number. Simply select a toll-free or local number, record a custom greeting, then add multiple extensions for your business. Toll-free numbers are great for marketing and they make your business sound much more professional. You can set up department employee extensions with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world. Get voicemails emailed to you as audio attachments. You can also send and receive SMS text messages from your business number. So join over 250,000 Grasshopper customers today. Plans start at just $12 a month, and you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Turn your smartphone into a business line with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, go to trygrasshopper.com/twit. Don't forget the twit at the end. We want them to know we sent you there. That's trygrasshopper.com/twit, and we thank Grasshopper for their support.
Google's self-driving cars no longer have a case of senioritis. They've graduated. Joining us to talk about this is Mike Murphy from Quartz. How's it going, Mike?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
Awesome. It's great to have you here. So Google's cars are no longer considered moonshots. Tell us a little bit about the transition out of Google's X division.
So they are now going to be part of a separate standalone company under Alphabet called Waymo. which in the day that we've had this, I keep confusing them with Waymo, the IoT plug company, and that's very confusing for my Alexa, which keeps turning my lights off when I'm talking about.
Wow, I just thought that was your iris, like auto irising, but no, your lights are actually going on. So transitioning away from Google X into its own kind of division of Alphabet called Waymo. What kind of pressure does this place on Waymo now that they're not in the warm embrace of Google X? It seems like this year, we've seen both sides of this. Many of these companies kind of going out on their own, and then many of these companies realizing like they're being cut back because things just aren't developing as rapidly as they need to, or they're not making money. Same pressures here?
Yeah, I think it's a weird one. I mean, because of exactly what you just said. I mean, you've got companies that Google or Alphabet has pushed out, whether it's like Verily, their life sciences division, or Nest, which is its own division, and Fiber as well, that have all kind of struggled to live up to their grand promises so far. That's not to say they won't, but over the course of 2016, they haven't necessarily, any of them, really shown any of that promise yet. So I do wonder if this is going to be another case of a grand promise, a really, really, really big promise. I mean, it was originally founded on the idea that the original engineer on the product was like, I don't want my kids to have driver's licenses, and his kids are in their teens now, or early teens. So it's like, are we really going to have this technology in a viable fashion that this company can start marketing to people in the next few years? Is that better achieved as its own company? Probably, but I'm still not convinced that this is not just another hubristic move by Alphabet.
Those poor kids are never going to get driver's licenses. I feel bad for them. So the new regulations say that they'll be given permission for licenses. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but people who make car makers, like automakers, will be given the right to test self-driving cars, where just software makers will not be given the rights to test self-driving cars. So do you think that Google is going to become an actual car maker, or do you think they'll still remain just like a software inside the self-driving car?
So this is like a real weird issue right now, and this sprung up last week when Michigan changed their laws on self-driving cars to make them more permissive, and a bunch of places were reporting that software companies and the like wouldn't be able to get in there. But Google responded to me saying, "Well, we're actually already a car manufacturer as far as the NTSB and the National Highway Safety Administration are concerned. So they have built their cars. They are a car manufacturer of record as far as they're concerned. I'm not entirely sure what the specifics for like what counts as becoming a car manufacturer. Like, do you have to be like Ford or Tesla, or can you just build car products? And I think that needs to be clarified. But I do think that to some degree, they're going to keep making cars. Like, they're not going to necessarily make any of these little koala cars that they're showing in these videos. But they are entering the partnership with Fiat Chrysler. They are building out a fleet of Pacifica minivans. I don't know why they chose minivans, but like they have committed to that. So I've got to believe that, like, if they're not car manufacturers in the sense that they are starting a car from the ground up, they're definitely starting one from, very far along, more than like, how Android is related to a smartphone. This is more like somewhere between a Nexus phone and a Samsung phone, as it were.
What about this kind of ride-sharing plan that they have with Fiat Chrysler? Like, obviously, like you're talking about, Google's really focusing on a partnership here, as opposed to kind of building out its fleet. In this case, it's really a partnership with Fiat and Chrysler, and they've said that's kind of going to be their approach going forward. How does that kind of pertain to this ride-sharing plan? And when will we see these, competing against Uber out on the roads?
I mean, it's a good question. They seem to have been a little wishy-washy in terms of like hard deadlines. I know that the cars are supposed to be ready next year. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to enter any kind of like wide service next year. And I mean, even the ones that like Uber have right now are on very specific routes in like very what they perceive to be safer parts of Pittsburgh. And the other tests that are happening, like the one that Volvo is going to do in Gothenburg next year, again, is going to be on very safe roads as far as they're aware. So I could see Google doing something like that, or Waymo doing Waymo. One of them is an IoT.
One of them, whatever.
Doing something like that in the near future. But I think it's going to be with these kind of partnerships. I mean, I think it makes sense to leverage companies that have hundreds of years worth of car manufacturing expertise behind them, because at the end of the day, Google has struggled to build, IoT devices with Nest, let alone the kind of infrastructural challenges associated with building cars on their own. I mean, they've struggled with Nest, and Motorola didn't exactly work out so well for them. So I wonder how much they could actually do completely on their own.
Sure.
Now, some people have speculated that Google or suggested Google buy Lyft. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that it could be an answer. I mean, as we've seen, these big money purchases that Google has made recently haven't exactly worked out. Mm-hmm. But Lyft has the partnership with GM and a heavy investment from GM. So I don't know how that would gel with, what Google seems to be developing with Fiat Chrysler. They're, the two of the three biggest car manufacturers in the U.S. But I do think, if the answer is to make an autonomous ride hailing app and service, it's going to be a lot easier to buy something that could provide that logistical infrastructure than to make it from the ground up. That being said, they already own Waze and Google Maps, which are two of the best tools out there for kind of getting people around and knowing where accidents are and knowing where roads are, and Google Street View and all that sort of stuff. So they do have building blocks more than probably a lot of other companies that could just try to jump into this sort of thing.
So they showed off at an event, they showed off a man who was blind riding in one of the Google cars. He was the only one in the car. And, and he was speaking about his experience and how this really made him feel like a whole person, not having to depend on anyone else to get him anywhere. And, I thought that was great and wonderful. And one of the side effects of having autonomous cars, but you could do that now, right? I mean, you could call a cab. I mean, how is it different?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a kind of very Silicon Valley thing to do of here is the best perfect example in a utopian society of what our technology could be used for. But yeah, I mean, if I go, hey Siri, call me an Uber, oh, she's going to do it.
Uh-oh. Siri, abort. Stand down, Siri. Stand down.
Well, you could do the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're blind or if you've got 20/20 vision. So I kind of think that tugging on the heartstrings of putting a blind man in your launch video is a little much. That being said, it definitely opens other people in that video. They had young kids who were on their own playing, and a family that was out or something. And the ability to call a car without a kid probably wouldn't have a credit card, or maybe your car broke down or something. The true freedom of cars that are always moving around and always available and know exactly where you want to go without having to deal with people is kind of interesting. But I remember the first time I ever used Uber, I was in Seattle on a beach, and I'd fallen in the ocean and I was soaking wet, and I called a car to come out of nowhere and save me. I mean, that was kind of amazing. And we've had that technology for 6-7 years now. And it was kind of weird. I don't know why I went in the ocean. But we've had that ability for a while. And the only thing that they're adding on here would be the ability to have these cars kind of always in motion. The second that it's dropped off, it doesn't have to worry about finding another fare. It's just moving until it's got, an optimal route based on where it is at any given time and something like that. But that's so far away in terms of what, especially in a city like New York, that logistically could happen, that I feel something like Uber and something that's not autonomous is far more likely to be how we call cars wherever we are for the next few years.
Yeah, right. So finally, in kind of related news, the U.S. Department of Transportation today proposed a rule that would require vehicles to talk to each other for collision avoidance and other safety reasons. Tell us a little bit about why that's essential. And does this apply to only autonomous vehicles, or is it kind of all vehicles going forward in the cars of the future?
So I believe this is going to be for all vehicles, and it is something that the DOT has been talking about for a while as kind of like one of those requirements that really does make sense. And I think it's pretty smart. I think that having machines talk to each other makes a lot of sense in terms of like, yeah, it's great that you've made a car that is so good, or, you know, any kind of robot that's so good at knowing exactly where it is in the world. But like, instead of it having to try and guess everything, wouldn't it be great if it knew what every other, you know, device around it was doing? Like, I think it would be great if it knew that this truck is changing lanes or is going to change lanes in 200 feet, or if like that stoplight is actually about to turn red or something like that. I feel like that kind of information could only help cars manage where they are on the road. I think it's a pretty smart idea.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Mike Murphy with Quartz, always a pleasure getting you on the show, man. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, QZ.com and MCWM on Twitter.
Get that Uber. You don't want to pay the fine for for canceling.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, Mike. We'll talk to you soon.
Yesterday, we asked you what technology you use to help you drift off to dreamland. Matt from Detroit says he falls asleep listening to death metal on Google Play Music.
Who doesn't?
No, I don't.
I have.
I do not.
I have.
We also got an email from Dana Kramer. She says she uses her Calm app. She posted this on Twitter, and it was a lifesaver before I had surgery recently.
All right. White noise for me. White noise works, and it's easy to find. Just turn on a fan in the other room. Piece of cake.
I'm going to try the death metal just to see if it works.
Yeah, tell me how that goes.
Okay.
We'll check in on that on tomorrow's episode. Up next, Finding Love on your Apple TV. But first, we want to thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. They are the sponsor of this episode. If you've ever gone through the process of applying for a mortgage, securing that mortgage, it's not always the easiest road to get there, but you do it because it's how you get there. And I mean, you want that home, so you do what you got to do. Well, what if that process could be just a little bit easier, a little bit more enjoyable? Rocket Mortgage brings a mortgage approval process into the 21st century. It's fast, powerful, and completely online. Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage and removed it from the equation, so you don't have to deal with that stuff anymore. If you hate searching through stacks of old files, you hate rifling through old paperwork, your filing cabinet, all that kind of stuff just to find the right information, well, with Rocket Mortgage, you don't have to do that. You can easily share your bank statements and your pay stubs at the touch of a button. It's really that easy. That's going to help you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. And even better, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this with the technology you already have in your pocket, on your phone, or maybe your back pocket with the tablet, because it's a little bit bigger. It's a quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch or wherever you happen to be. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, you definitely want to check out Rocket Mortgage today. You can find it at quickenloans.com/TNT. That's quickenloans.com/TNT. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support. TNT's fan of the day is Austin Lee Beatty on Twitter, who says this is, quote, how I watch or listen to TNT every day at work. That desk looks a lot more uniform and organized than mine. Maybe a little more in line with Megan's. Mm-hmm. Maybe this feels more like home to you, but man, how do you do that? How do you organize at your desk? I don't know how people do it, and I'm constantly impressed.
Yeah, you do not know how to do it. It's
no,
true.
I still have. We moved here to the studio how long ago at this point?
Like, I don't know, 5 months?
5 months. I still have a box full of stuff on my desk because you know what? I want to work. I don't want to rifle through my old stuff. I just want to get to work.
Well, they say that messy people are more creative.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I'll resemble that comment. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it.
Now Tinder can be an activity that the whole family can enjoy together.
Finally.
Finally. Dating app Tinder announced that their app is finally available on the Apple TV. We were all waiting for this. Now you can swipe right on the big screen. Now, before you use this, I just want you to know that I have never found another remote more difficult than swiping on the Apple TV remote. So,
really? It's
yes,
not difficult?
It's just, anyone who's used it will agree with me. It's just hard it's not good. So you can swipe right when you meant to swipe left.
Oh no, I'll never meet that
left.
person.
Yeah. Or you'll meet the person and you didn't want to. I have no idea why they did this. I mean, I guess it's like, well, I think I have an idea because, I mean, we've talked about it. I'm one of those married people that likes to look at my single friend's Tinder and try it. It's not easy. You don't even know which side you go.
I'm right. I think I'm right.
But
I mean, I can swipe. I just don't know if it's actually registering.
Right.
Well, I'm probably messing up Leo's.
Now you have to date that person that you just.
No, I mean,
I think that I'm one of those people that likes to look at my single friend's Tinder and I'm like, oh no, not that guy has a picture with another woman. What's that all about?
So it's like a communal thing.
Yeah.
Like,
So I think
let me help you.
Yeah. But,
okay. My thought on this is if you're using Tinder, if you're using Tinder, that's another show. I remember we struck that name on an earlier show. If you're using Tinder on your Apple TV, then I think you should be forced for your profile picture to be what it looks like when you're sitting on your couch watching TV. And, because you got to be accurate, right? This is what I look like right now while I'm thumbing through Tinder on my couch.
I thought you were going to say it's like you have to take a picture of you and all your friends, or you and your mom and dad sitting on the couch like looking.
It's like if you want me, you got to take all of us.
Right.
It's a package deal.
But they do point out in this article, if you're home for the holidays and you're using Tinder on your TV, make sure you log out of the app before you go home so like your mom can't like set up some dates for you.
Awkward. That would be kind of awkward. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can always be part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail, of course, 260-TNT-SHOW, and find us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV.
Show your allegiance to the Twit Army with the new gear that Anthony decorated. He designed. It's a great logo, and you can get it. There's shirts, there's hoodies. You can get them in a variety of colors. And if you order before December 15th, they will arrive before Christmas. So looks like you got a couple days.
That's better than the AirPods.
Mm-hmm. Go to teespring.com/twit. Nobody wants the AirPods. They want a Twit hoodie, of course.
True.
You can order yours today. You can find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to tweet at me, please tweet at me if you use Tinder on your Apple TV. I'm at Megan Maroney.
Yeah, send a screenshot of that with how I watch TNT and you using Tinder on your Apple TV. We want to see that. I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to our technical director, Anthony, who stepped in, did a fantastic job, and for creating the awesome design. Thanks for Patrick for scrolling words on the screen and helping out. And, of course, Jammer B and this wonderful audience that we have here sitting in the background, making us feel all important.
They're from the Department of Communications at Santa Rosa Junior College.
Awesome. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is so much fun when we get to do it in front of people that aren't in a chat room and bits on a stream. And thanks to Kevin, of course, for editing and making us look good. And thanks to you people on the stream and bits on the internet. We will see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.